guys, Solar here from CODEPHENOM. Welcome to the next installment of this video series. So we talked about commenting earlier, and now we're going to jump into something called classes. So classes really are, I guess we can say a template. It is a template for different any further applications. When you think about something, for example, like on a health card, for example, they can have a template called a person. So they're kind of registering you as a person, maybe even a government ID, for example. What could happen is they need some different fields, like they need your name, they need your age, they need your date of birth, where you live, things like that. So we can actually make a template and then use another class or like some part later in the application and then use that template to get some information. So this is actually pretty cool, and I'll take you guys through the steps right now. So in this application, we can go ahead and go to our project, right click, new, and class. And now let's name our class, and let's say we're making something for a person, so we'll say person. So there we go, it created a public class called person. And then everything inside the brackets is where our template is really made out of. Now, there are different types of classes, public, and there's also different types of variables, and we'll talk about that shortly. So we just created this public class, and we want to make a template for a person. So what things could someone use? Well, let's create a public variable. So we're making it a public variable, so accessible anywhere. Public. The type of the variable, we'll call it a string, and we'll call it something like name. So we just created that. So now this is our template. Let's create another attribute. Let's do an int this time. Let's do age. So now we have two different things. Whenever we call this person class, like a template, we're going to have to fill these two pieces of information in, or we can rather. So now let's create a new class so we can actually use this class, and we'll call it like person database. So we're trying to make it applicable to the naming scheme. So in our database, how do we call a class? Well, this is actually pretty easy. What we first do is just like when we're defining a variable, we say it's an int or we say it's a string. In this case, we are actually going to say that it is a person, kind of like it's a type of a variable. And we're going to say person, and now we're going to name that person. So if I were to, for example, do int age like I did in the other class, I need to give this person instance a name. So let's call this one Solar. Alright? Now we call it, or let's just give it a better name, something like short, like S, or maybe even person 1. Alright, set that equal to. Now we're going to make this equal a new instance of the person class. So we'll just literally write down new, and you'll see it'll be bolded. And we're going to give the person the name of the class, open up our curly brackets, our curve brackets, so which means we're interacting with it. We're going to fill in these this information. So what we can do now is, now that we have it set, we have now we have created a template or a new instance based off of this template person. So we called it number 1, or we called it the written word 1. So now when we want to store information into it, we can write down 1, then dot. So dot really means inside of, so we are in the 1 person dot, and now we have these two attributes inside. So we can actually modify the string for the name and the integer for the age. So we're going to do 1 dot, then the name of the variable you're modifying. So in our case, let's say we want to enter a name, we're going to use name. And set that equal to, since it's a string type, we need a string information to be stored. So I'm going to say something like Solar. And there should be no errors. But you see right here, a name is not accessible. Now what's the reason why? It's because the name has variable expected after this token. Down here, we had string name. Over here, person 1. And then also, well, one bigger step rather, is including a method, a main method. And this actually is not something I explained to you guys before. So we'll actually cover it in a different video. Alright, so there we go, now everything's working. So a method is basically like a function. So I didn't include the function inside this class. That is actually called a class method, and we'll look at it later on, like a more in-depth example. Now now that I've entered in my name information, what about I do a 1 dot and then an age? So the age was in an integer form. So I'm gonna write down something like 100. I'm 100 years old, guys. And we're gonna save that. And so there we go. We actually now know how to store information into our, I guess, our stack based off of that template of called person. So that's a class, guys. It is really a template. It's pretty interesting stuff, and you can actually manipulate this quite a bit. In the next video, we'll actually investigate class methods and kind of explain in another video what's the difference between a public, protected, default, and private type of anything really, variable or class. So I'll see you guys in the following videos. Take care.